Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
Sure, you ought to stop that line. I ain't lying. The nigga had a watermelon this big. Talking about, what watermelon, Mr. Rand? I like to fell out. What watermelon, Mr. Rand? And it's sitting there bigger than life.
What Mr. Rand said?
He ain't said nothing. He figured if the nigga too dumb to know he carrying a watermelon, he wasn't gonna get much sense out of him. Trying to hide that great big old watermelon under his coat. Afraid to let the white man see him carry it home.
I'm like you, I ain't got no time for them kind of people.
Now, what he look like getting mad because he see the man from the union talking to Mr. Rand?
He come up to me talking about, Fun Maxim gonna get us fired. I told him, get away from me with that. He walk away from me calling you a troublemaker. What Mr. Rand say?
He ain't said nothing. He told me to go down to the commissioner's office next Friday. Whoa! They called me down there to see them.
Well, long as you got your complaint filed, they can't fire you. That's what one of them white fellas tell me.
They weren't about them firing me. What, they gonna fire me because I asked a question? That's all I did. Went to Mr. Rand, I asked him why. Why you got all the white men's driving the colored lippy? Told him, what's the matter? Don't I count? Think only white fellas got sense enough to drive a truck? Hell, that ain't no paper job. Anybody can drive a truck. How come you got all the whites driving and the colored lippy? He told me take it to the union. Well, hell, that's what I done. Now they want to come up with this pack of lies.
I told Brownie if the man come and ask him any questions, just tell the truth. It ain't nothing but something they done trumped up on you because you filed a complaint on.
Brownie ain't got that much sense. Man wasn't thinking about nothing. All I want them to do is change the job description, give everybody a chance to drive the truck. Hey! Brownie can't see that. He ain't got that much sense.
Mr. Maxson! Commissioner will see you now.
Rose! Hey, Rose!
I wish I could have seen Mr. Rand's face when he told me.
He couldn't get it out of his mouth like to fit his tongue. When they called me down there to the commissioner's office, he thought they was going to fire me, like everybody else.
Oh, I didn't think they was going to fire you. I thought they was going to put you on the warning.
Hey, Rose! Yeah, Mr. Rand like to fit his tongue.
I see you run right down there to Taylor's and told that Alberti.
Hey, Rose! I told everybody. Hey, Rose! I went down there to cash my check. Hey!
Hush y'all been hollering. I know you out here. What they say down there at the commissioner's office.
You supposed to come when I call you, woman. Bono will tell you that. Don't Lucille come when you call her?
Man, hush your mouth. I ain't no dog. Talk about come when you call me.
Yeah, this Bono used to have me old dog get up at you like that. You say, come here, Blue. He just lay there and look at you. End up getting the stick, chasing him away, trying to make him come.
I ain't stirring you and your dog. I remember you used to sing that old song.
Hear it ring! Hear it ring! Had an old dog and there was
Nobody want to hear that old song.
You know Blue was mighty true.
Corey running around here singing that song.
Hell, I remember that song myself.
You know Blue was a good old dog. Blue G, the possum in a hollow log. That's my daddy's song. My daddy made up that song.
I don't care who made it up. Don't nobody want to hear you sing.
Come here, woman.
You come in here carrying on. I reckon they ain't fired you. What they say down there at the commissioner's office?
Look here, Rose. Mr. Rand called me in his office after I got back from talking to them people down there. He called me in his office and told me it was making me a driver.
Troy, you did.
No, I ain't. Ask Bono.
It's great, Troy. Now you don't have to hassle people no more.
Oh, hell. I didn't think I was going to see you today. I thought you was in jail. Got it all over the curry about them raiding Cephas' place where you be hanging out with all them thugs.
Hey, Pop, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't go down there gambling. I just go down there to sit in with the band. I ain't got nothing to do with the gambling, Pop. They got some good music down there.
They got some rogues is what they got.
How you been, Mr. Bono? Hi, Rose.
I see where you playing down at the Crawford Grill tonight.
How come you ain't brought Bonnie like I told you? You should have brought Bonnie. She ain't been by in a month of Sundays.
I was just in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by.
Here you come.
Your daddy got a promotion on the rubbish. He gonna be the first colored driver. Ain't gotta do nothing but sit up there and read the paper like them white fellas.
Hey, Pop, if you knew how to read, you'd be all right.
No. You mean if the nigga knew how to drive, he'd be all right. Been fighting with them people about driving and ain't even got a license. Mr. Rand, know you ain't got no driver's license.
Driving ain't nothing. All you do is point the truck where you want it to go. Driving ain't nothing.
Do they know you ain't got no driver's license? That's what I'm talking about. I ain't asked if driving was easy. I asked if Mr. Rand know you ain't got no driver's license.
Man ain't got to know my business. Time he found out I have 2-3 of them driver's license.
You had to lose. You don't know what love is.
Hey, Troy.
Sounding Bono?
I just thought I'd stop by to see you. Wasn't no one at the house, so I figured.
You stopped by to see me for. You ain't stopped by in a month of Sundays. Hell, I must owe you some money or something.
Now, since you got your promotion, I can't keep up with you. Used to see you every day. Now I don't even know what route you working.
Keep switching me around. Got me out there in Green Tree now. All them white folk got me.
Green Tree, huh? You lucky. At least you ain't got to be lifting them barrels. Damn if they ain't getting heavier. I'm gonna put in my 2 years and call it quits.
Yeah, I'm thinking about retiring myself.
Oh, you got it easy. You could drive for another 5 years.
Ain't the same, Bono. It ain't like working the back of the truck. Ain't like you working by yourself. Ain't nobody to talk to. No, I'm thinking about retiring. How Lucille?
She all right. The arthritis get to acting up on her sometime. Saw Rose on the way here. She going down to the church, huh?
Yeah, she took up going down there. All them preachers looking to fatten their pockets. Got some gin in?
No, thanks. I just stopped in to say hello.
Well, you can take a drink, nigga. I ain't never known you to say no to a drink. You ain't got to work tomorrow?
I just stopped by. I'm fitting to go over to Skinner's. We got us a domino game going over his house every Friday.
Nigga, you can't play no dominoes. I used to whoop you 4 games out of 5.
Well, that learned me. I'm getting better.
Yeah? It's all right.
Look here, I got to be getting on. Stop by sometime, huh?
Yeah, I'll do that, Bono. Lucille told Rose you got her that new refrigerator.
Yeah, Rose told Lucille you had finally built your fence, so I figured we'd call it even.
I knew you would.
Yeah. Okay. I'll be talking to you.
Yeah, good to see you, Bono. I'm a stopover.
Yeah. Okay, Troy.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, January 19th, 2017. So I have been told. Last day, President Obama will be in the White House. Whew, forgive me if I do not shed a tear. This is workplace racism. Every Thursday, still have multiple people saying they are not aware of when workplace racism, when that particular program comes on. Like, I guess they're listening to the archives. every Thursday. I think I might even change the title to Thursdays Workplace Racism, and hopefully that will permanently end the confusion about at least the Workplace Racism program. People will know when that program airs, but it's every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific. You'll have to forgive me for the people that are in other time zones. If you're listening live, you'll have to do the math. But it's every Thursday, Workplace Racism. Please ring in. This is the only program that I say this. We are not supposed to be spectators for this broadcast. That is not what's supposed to be going down. Just ringing in, or if you're online or if you're on your phone, just to listen to other victims of racism and challenges that they have had on the job. Absolutely not. If you are a victim of racism, you've had a job, you got a job right now, you have experienced workplace racism. I've stated before, I think it's constructive, and I have reason to suspect that other people think so as well. Even us reviewing our own work experience, you can pick out times when you were more confused about racism, things that happened then, what you did then, and okay, now that I have a better understanding of racism, white supremacy, I have some counter-racism strategies for the job. This is what I would have done. This is what I would have said, or I would not have done, whatever the case. I think that's constructive. Certainly, situation, whatever your current situation, I think that's constructive. If you want to dial in, share any difficulties, problems that you're having, and if you have figured out strategies that work. We certainly need that. If you have figured out things that, if there's name calling, or there was name calling, right? That was something that you work with a lot of black people and they just, anti-blackness, bashing other black people, talking bad about black people, and you were able to figure out some things to minimize that. We need that. If they were doing things to you on the job, if they were saying that you're so quiet, you never talk, are you a good fit for the family? And you were able to figure out some things to eliminate that. We need those strategies and anything else that's helpful so that you can just go, you do your work, you get your promotion, like you heard from Troy in Fences. You get your promotion, you get your raise, and you get to work there until you decide to move on or retire. That's what we need. So if you have those strategies, dial in. This is not a broadcast for spectators. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. We'll see your hand, get you on the air. Quickly, I will note, I had a feature article published at Atlanta Black Star today on Obama's last day as president. The article dissects the inaccurate ways that President Obama talks about racism, white supremacy, the inaccurate ways that he has talked about racism over the years, looking at many of his seminal moments, speeches, both as a candidate and a president, even his farewell speech last week. That is another way that you can not be a spectator. Easy way that you can invest in the cows. Share, like, comment on the article. Not on Facebook. Well, you can share it certainly on Facebook. That is super helpful. But likes and shares on the article page, that's helpful. I think if you ask anyone, any writers, journalists, if they write books about racism, it is challenging. If you are a black person, it is challenging for a variety of reasons, especially if you are attempting to speak accurately. So that is extremely helpful and easy way that you can invest in the cows. I think that's 30 seconds. Probably wouldn't even take 30 seconds. You can comment, "Damn you, Obama." Quick, easy. Replace white supremacy with justice. Super quick. Comment, like, share the report if you think it is constructive. Definitely appreciate all of the support if you think the writing helps some folks get a better grasp of racism, white supremacy. That said, a couple quick things. We'll try and make sure we don't miss any callers and or people that write in. Make sure I get that also. If you're listening live and you want to write in, even if you're listening to the archives, you can write in as well. If you have an experience you'd like to share, observation about your workplace situation, my email, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. You can share. We read things anonymously, so if you would like to let listeners know if you want to share a problem and get feedback or something successful, you figured out some counter-racism strategy that worked, you can share that as well and get listeners' feedback also. A couple quick things. Allison Manswell was playing in the clip at the beginning. If you were here early, which some people were, Allison Manswell, she is a black female. She wrote a book, Listen In, about workplace racism specifically. She was a guest on the program in autumn of 2016. And I'll have to play the audio clip next week, but one of the moments that I thought was really important from her visit to the program, she said with some hesitancy that she tells black males specifically about their tone of voice, particularly if they're tall or larger in proximity in terms of how they stand, where they stand in relation to whites. And I asked, for further detail, and she said she almost felt as though she was telling black males that they would have to emasculate themselves in order to survive under racist work conditions. It was linked, I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, very important segment from Allison Manswell on her visit to the program, and her book is titled Listen In. Also, really quick, just from that segment from Fences, that was the audio segment playing at the beginning of the broadcast, Fences, with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. I thought it was really, exact counter-racist codification. Troy Maxson, who's played by Denzel Washington, at the very beginning, he's a sanitation worker there on the back of the garbage truck, and he says, I just asked a question. Is it that only white men, they're the only ones allowed to drive the truck? Just asking a question. And that's what we talk about all the time, being able to ask questions. You should not be able to get in trouble for asking questions, or at minimum, asking questions should reduce the likelihood of you getting in trouble. And even in the movie, he did not get fired. He got a promotion after he asked a question. And I think he asked a series of questions about who is allowed to drive and why is it that all of the drivers are white. Another question. Really important, really at the core of counter-racism, not just in the workplace, but in general, being able to ask questions. I will read one, maybe two quick reports. I'm still trying to get caught up from last week where people wrote in about workplace racism. Okay. First person. Caller wrote in, listener wrote in, I've been working on a few control systems that were shipped to the company I work for. A few of the systems came from Mexico. The others were from nearby in the States. Both of the systems had various mistakes that I had to fix. The control system that came from the States had a lot more mistakes than the one from Mexico. My supervisors made a few comments in regards to the system from Mexico. One of my supervisors said that he was surprised that the system from Mexico had fewer mistakes. He said that he didn't think anything that came from Mexico was any good. They went on to imitate Mexican accents. Of course, they all had a good laugh from that. Well, since you have emailed me, that might even serve as the documentation right there, but that would be the sort of thing that I would just document. I would write down, all this was said. I wouldn't act. That's one that I wouldn't move on. I wouldn't go to report anything. I would just make a note that did happen. Names, date, time, exacts as much detail as possible, because that's the sort of thing, again, the black male, I think this was last year, he had about 150 recordings of them, same type of thing, racist jokes and saying nigger and just going on and on and on and on and on. It makes your case much more solid when you have a year of specific, thorough, neat documentation of like 100 or 70 incidents like this. It puts you in a much better position. So I hope this was documented. Next. Let's see. Okay. This person, racist jokes. I had a work training course recently, and one of the questions said something like, you're in the reception area, and you overhear a customer telling a racist joke. The joke makes you want to laugh. Do you A, turn around and giggle? B, challenge the customer and let them know that their behavior is unacceptable? C, report it to your manager? D, ignore it and do nothing? The course instructor said the correct answer was to challenge the person, otherwise the company could be perceived as condoning the behavior. One of my white coworkers then said that they overheard a lot of racist jokes during the Brexit referendum and that it upset him, and then the course instructor, who is also white, said that she hears racist comments all the time when she's out with her husband, he's also white, and that she always challenges the people when she hears it. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting that the question assumed that the person hearing the racist joke would find it funny, and I did hear your voice in my head saying, they're not ignorant. For sure. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. But I thought that was such an important point he made. And by the way, this caller is in, or this listener, excuse me, is in the UK. I didn't that didn't even compute when I read this the first time. I had to look at his signature again to see, oh, okay, this person is not even in the States. But it sounds so similar. It sounds like exactly what I've heard from black people wherever they happen to be in the world, which is just further evidence of what it means to be white. But I thought it was so important that it's included within the framework that you would initially find this joke funny. And then, after the joke has made you want to laugh, then we get to, okay, now what should I do about this? After whatever they have said, I have already perceived it to be funny. I've stated that all the time. Racist jokes, they reveal so much truth about, again, what it means to be white, what racism is, and how it works. Abusing, terrorizing black people is a barrel of laughs or whites. I have others, workplace racism commentary. I'm just going to get to the callers and sprinkle these in as we go. The number again is 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943. Pound. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Folks who dialed in who have a hand up, line should be open. Feel free to participate.
Hey, how you doing? Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. I'm right poorly.
All right. How you doing? Same. If I could just basically briefly give two narratives of suspected workplace racism.
Can I interrupt you before you start your narrative? I forgot I was going to do this because just to emphasize how bad the problem is. Sir, do you mind telling folks when is the workplace racism broadcast? What day of the week?
Thursday.
Thank you. And what time?
8 o'clock.
Beautiful.
I'm on the East Coast.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, sir. Let's hear your narratives.
All right. So I drive trucks. I drive locally, New York City. So it seems like every time Martin Luther King holiday comes around, I have a coworker that always has a problem with taking that Monday off. Presumably, they think that Tuesday, Monday we off. Tuesday there's going to be a lot of carryover work. Being though that, we're off Monday. So I just, he's an Italian American, married to a Mexican woman. But I never really heard him complain about any other holidays other than when Martin Luther King holiday comes around. I never challenged him. I just took a mental note. So I'm just like, okay, Martin Luther King holiday's coming around, and he's always confused about that particular holiday because we had a trade-off. It was either President's Day or Martin Luther King holiday. They chose Martin Luther King's holiday. Oh, I don't really see why we need to take that day off. Tuesday is going to be a lot of work. I would rather just work. I mean, what worker wouldn't want a day off? But it's just that particular holiday, so I took a mental note. That was something mild, but I just had to just basically look at this guy side eye. I noticed a couple of times he's a very pleasant guy. I mean, he's never had a problem with him. He's friendly. When he tried to make he tried to make racial jokes, and I never participated. For instance, there's a joke because it snows on the East Coast, and he's like, my name is Najee. So he's like, hey, Najee, when you're on the road, watch out for all that black ice. And I just kind of look at him, and I just kind of keep it, keep it moving, so he makes little jokes like that. I sidestep it. But he also he's Italian, married to a Mexican woman, and they have a child. I recalled hearing a conversation that he was having with another coworker, and he had a problem with his child attending an all-black school. So he was trying to find ways to get him redistricted so his child wouldn't have to go to the all-black school because the school was poor. He wanted his child to go to a better school. Also, another mental note, and again, that also reminds me of what you just said. Whites are not naive about racism and also disparities and poor conditions in black neighborhoods. Okay, when I was younger and I wasn't so I really couldn't put racism in its proper context. I worked at a electronic company. I was one of two black employees there, and the round the clock racial jokes, it was real unbearable. This was during the time before George Bush Iraq declared war in Iraq. So I would listen to a radio station on the East Coast, your good friend Amy Goodman, 99.5. Cynthia, one day I was listening to Cynthia McKinney, and it was a anti-war protest. My supervisor came storming in the warehouse, telling me to turn that off. It's treasonous. He doesn't want to hear any treason against America. All right. Another co-worker of Italian descent, he would drop spook. He would say spook often. His daughter would frequent in black areas, and he would basically talk about how disturbed he was that his said daughter was hanging out with the spooks. And he said this willy-nilly, without even a hesitation or even no consideration that I was African American. There was a supervisor of Hispanic descent, Dominican. He was positioning himself a supervisor. So he pulls me to the side. He says, "You know what? We need to team up with each other because us Americans and you blacks, we have to come together against the Hispanics." I was taken aback because he clearly let me know that black wasn't American and that I was other. This particular Hispanic guy, he was naive. I really didn't feel free to pull his coat and let him know that the other white employees was conspiring against him. So I just listened, went in one ear, out the other. Around the clock, they will make comments. Hey, Najee, why do black people wear their hats to the back? Again, I really wasn't well versed in counter racism, so I would just, I just would give a little grin and just keep working. And they will also comment about Al Sharpton, assuming that every black person was pro Al Sharpton. Frequently, they were hunters, so they will frequently hunt on the weekends. So, and I'm gonna close with this. So, I went into the office, and the guys were showing off these mounted devices where they will propel us, they will position themselves up in the trees to hunt deer. So I said, wow, you guys are going to be, y'all going to be up in the trees, hunting this weekend. And this is a branch manager. So he says, oh, wow, hanging in trees? No, you guys would be hanging in trees. And did you know, Najee, the branch manager down in at the other branch, he's with the KKK. So so basically, you're not the only one that could be hanging in trees. This was a branch manager. If I knew what I knew now, I would have recorded that. But I looked, I was taken aback. I was highly offended. And that wasn't the only racial joke that this branch manager, said to me. He was also of Italian descent. But the fast forward, I was eventually laid off, which it was hoorah. I was elated. I was able to collect unemployment, look for another job, and I was away from that hostile environment. And when I went to get my last check, my boss, he can treat me to something to eat. And I said, okay, cool. That's okay. And no, not my branch manager, my supervisor, the gentleman who had a problem with 99.5 and the treasonous talk against America. But what got me was a lot of them when they took me out to eat, they were kind of shocked that I wasn't sad. I really didn't care that I got laid off. It's like, wow, you okay? I'm fine. I mean, why should I be upset? I mean, I'm 25. I'm 24 years old at this time. This isn't the end of the road for me. I'm gonna get something to eat. Thanks for the food, and I went on about my business. And to close, fast forward, when I left the job, that same branch manager was demoted because another white employee took my position that came from another branch. He overheard him, and the guy who took my place was white. He overheard him talking about a black salesperson from another branch, and he referred to him as a nigger. And that particular white employee informed upper management, and he was demoted. So that's some of my experiences with dealing with mal racism and, overtly hostile racism. I don't know what I should have done when I was dealing with that direct racism. I handled it the best I could. I've never been a denier of racism, but I just really never knew how to put it into its proper context until I started listening to the C.O.W.S. So I was introduced to Francis Cress Welsing and people like Millie Fuller.
Well, certainly for listeners, if you all have questions on what we just heard from our first caller, you can feel free. The only thing I'll say, number one, Amy Goodman is not my good friend. That is my BFF. And second, wow, it's so many different. I guess the most important point that I thought you shared out of many, when they took you out to dinner, and I guess people, you can come up with your own code, but that might be one I would decline, particularly if you've already been laid off. You don't really have an obligation to Yeah, that would be up to everybody. Can come up with their own code about what you want to do with that. But regardless, you said it seemed like they were kind of taken aback, like, oh wow, we thought Najee was going to be sad and crying, and oh man, that's what they wanted to see. Like racist, that in my view, that is the depth of the pathology that we will pay to take you out to lunch so that we can get the pleasure of seeing you suffer and in misery and sad. And it will spoil our lunch if you're not sad. Like if you're looking like you're chilling and I'm not stressed about where my rent is going to come from and I'm doing all right and you all did me a favor because I really didn't like this, toxic race environment anyway. They are not trying to see that at all. Like that is the level when Dr. Bobby E. Wright, when he wrote about psychopathic racial personality, that's what we're talking about, at least in my estimation. Other folks who dialed in, if you all have either questions about what you just heard or if you have your own situation you would like to share, line should be open.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's Delaney Casey. Greetings, Gus. Greetings to the rest of the callers. I wanted to share I don't have a response to the previous caller. I wanted to share my experience this past week, a few of the things that I learned to help me get through the week and some more trashy behavior, how I handle certain situations. I added something new to my code this past week was to just remember, I think a lot of the callers are aware of this, but to be aware of stop smiling. I don't work in an office building. I don't work with other people. I'm quote unquote self-employed. So I'm constantly moving and driving throughout the city and at different jobs. However, I'm still challenged, if not only visually and verbally, by other white people. Every once in a while, non-white people, but mostly white people, because I don't speak to them. And it also helps me to stay focused by not smiling. Generally, there's this feeling that you have to smile at someone who's walking near you. I think that is very, very deeply ingrained in non-white people, specifically black people in this part of the world, from the era of slavery. And it's helped me to stay focused and just maintain black self-respect at all times, and not being jovial or smiling unnecessarily for no reason, as is very common. I've noticed. I think something that we could pay attention to. I had a client this week in a mobile home community, and we had spoken a couple of days last week, scheduling the appointments for me to come look out and do some work at her mobile home. She is a white female. When she opened the door on Monday, I think it was Monday, she was very visibly taken aback that I was a black male. I have a beautifully unkept afro, so the appearance to her, it's common. It happens to me quite often. However, I love catching dominators off guard. So she opens the door. She eventually invites me in the house because she was almost not going to for a split second there, but she invited me inside, recomposed herself, and showed me some of the issues that she had. It's interesting. I replaced her water heater. She had many different things she wanted to do, but I replaced the water heater the next day, and I had sent her an estimate telling her how much everything would be. I believe it was Tuesday when I actually did the work. I called her and told her that I would like to be paid that day, simply because I was doing all of the work that day, and I'm not foolish enough. I do not trust white people enough, specifically to leave their house after I've completed the work. I told her I wanted to be paid that day for the work that's being completed according to the estimate that I sent her. She tells me that it's going to be very difficult for her because she can't make it home, or whatever excuse was, but specifically she said, I couldn't have done it yesterday. I couldn't get the money for you yesterday because it was MLK Day. And that was her excuse. I thought that was very telling because she didn't say it was a holiday. She said it was MLK Day, almost implying because of that day, she could not fulfill her obligations to me. I believe that she was practicing racism. White people have money. In fact, she paid me to buy the parts, or she gave me the money, rather, to buy the parts but then she all of a sudden didn't have money. Again, I believe victims of racism should never assume white people do not have access to every dime on this planet. They can get money whenever they want to, and assuming that they don't has only caused me to be abused and taken advantage of by white people, specifically in my line of work. Her son, which was interesting, while she left and I was doing some of the work at the house, he walked up to me kind of quiet. He's maybe in his mid-20s or so, white male. Walked up to me, I looked at him, said, "Hey, what's going on?" and kept walking, and he kind of stopped me with a question. He looked at me sideways, and he said, "How long have you been doing this?" And he just started barraging me, just hit me with a barrage of questions. And I thought that was interesting because, of course, I'm older than him. I'm not his age. We're not peers, as we say in West Africa. We're not equal. So he starts asking me these questions, and I respond to them. I'm in the dominator's house. What am I going to do? Sit down. I respond to the question shortly and keep moving. But the lesson that I learned from that situation was that the dominators asked a lot of questions. So just like you were saying earlier about the scene and fences and about other situations, we should always be in question-asking mode. We don't get anything by prattling off. And I know myself, I have a challenge with sometimes prattling off too much, specifically with dominators when they ask me questions. Just remember to be short and ask plenty of questions. The comment you made about Allison Manswell and the piece on emasculating blacks almost with their behavior, I experience that often. I'm not tall. I really don't have a deep voice, but I believe I'm, as I say, heavily melanated. And I had a conversation with a trailer park manager where she was asking me to come and do some bid on some work that was done there. And that Allison Manswell piece came to mind because I was thinking in our conversation, it was almost like there was somebody in the room over my shoulder saying, "Don't raise your voice or this white woman is going to scream." And I found it very challenging to have a conversation because every time I would even speak enthusiastically about something, she would almost be apprehensive as if, do I need to grab my mace? And it kept my voice very low. So she was checking me physically by not even doing anything. There were some other white people working around. And I thought to myself, wow, this is the nature of white terrorism, specifically with white women, again, the usual suspect. And she kept asking me questions as if I was in a job interview. And I get that often. Black people are often treated as children, and this is just proof of it. Because it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how long you've been doing work for someone, you will always be seen as a child, which we are, and under this system of white supremacy. I mean, I don't work for anyone, yet when I go to white people for them to do work, they treat me as if I'm interviewing. I mean, these are the same questions. How long have you been doing this? So do you do work? They'll ask me the same question over and over. Do you do work on houses? Do you work by yourself, or do you work with, is this your company? I get asked that question sometimes daily, every day that I go to work. And it's taxing as it is. I believe it just reminds me that these people see us as children. They treat us as children. Under the system of white supremacy, black people will always be children to them. And my last instance I wanted to share was today I went to do some work at a building that was being purchased by a young white man. He is purchasing a building in the middle of a black neighborhood. Some people call it gentrification. As Mr. Fuller says, white people move us where they want to. So there are white people moving into this predominantly black neighborhood. Again, it's being called gentrification. It's on the other side of a street, which has been described as a dividing line of the city by the name of Troost. This was on the black side of Troost, and this young white male, no older than 30, was purchasing a complete apartment building. And I was doing some work on the building. He also asked me to look at some other things to quote inside of the building. He told me not to speak because we were meeting with the owner of the building, who was a non-white male, black male. He told me not to speak about the complete rehab he wants to have done because he felt that the owner was emotionally attached to the building. And that's something he shared with me over the phone before I got out to the building. I believe he was practicing racism, white supremacy. This man has plans for the building and is obviously willing to do some underhanded things to make sure that he gets the building. And so he didn't want me to speak about doing any type of big remodel on the building, just a small work that I was doing. Another real estate broker came up who was also a young white male. It almost looked to me like one of those real estate millionaire shows where these young white guys pull up in Audis and hop out and just, with Armani suits on and be like, hey, we're blah, blah, blah. So it almost felt that way. But anyway, I go through the building with the dominators, and you could obviously see that these people have the power to take things away from us and give things to us when they want to. The owner of this building, very likely this might have been the only building he owned. It might have been his whole life involved in here. The people in the building were kind of looking at us. A couple came out and asked, because they don't know what's going on. All these non-white black people, my brothers and sisters have to live with this type of suffering. They likely will be moved out because of the plans that the real estate developer shared with me, the young white man. He shared these plans with me. And I'm pretty sure, he's not going to put in cultural countertops for the black people, the 68-year-old retired black woman living on the third floor. I seriously doubt he's going to plan on keeping her there. I do want to thank everyone for listening. I'll take my call offline.
Wow. Fascinating. The incident with the female race soldier, where she didn't have the funds and tried to blame it on the late Dr. King, that she couldn't get access to the funds, I guess, earlier in the week, one day. And then, squabbling about the pad. Agree 1,000% in terms of whites. They have access to the entire planet and commonly make excuses that they don't. And that even is the sort of tacky thing I think that she would have only pulled with a black person. Like I just cannot see that happening as easily if there just been another white person there doing the water heater and doing some work on her residence. But agree certainly with the questions, and I thought that was an important point as well, because I've noted that. I tried to point that out as well on the call many times, that white people, they ask questions, they investigate, and particularly to get information about maintaining their system of racism. And that's something I've said this over the years, that if I'm talking to white people, I have I'm keeping a ratio of how many questions I'm asking to how many questions they're asking. It should be like 7 to 1 or more. I'm asking 7 questions to their 1 question or more. If once that ratio starts to drop below that, at least for me, my experience, it is much less constructive when white people are just asking questions, and getting you to talk. Other folks that we have not heard from, if you have commentary or questions about any of the different experiences folks have shared so far, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening to all the callers. This is 2812 in Virginia. I'll do a quick synopsis. I had updated everybody last week about the white woman, that I was no contact anymore with her. This week was the first time that I actually had to visually see her, and I actually had to share an office with her. We didn't share an office, but I had to share a certain space, and actually she had to print something for me, very codified. Didn't speak much at all, thank you, very pleasant. But it was really the first time that I really realized what Mr. Fuller was talking about how tacky you have to be with racism. And, she immediately noticed that I was kind of standoffish, and it wasn't being rude, but just, quick to the point. She was like, well, hey, if you need anything else, just let me know. I'm here to help. Very overly nice. And I was like, man, Mr. Fuller is right. If these people weren't practicing racism all the time, this wouldn't be so tacky. And that was like immediate. I was like, oh, that makes sense. So anyway, went on about my business. That was yesterday. Then on, I think, what day was that? So this is how racism works in the mortgage industry. We have a loan program. It's a loan out there that most people might have heard about. It's called FHA. And with FHA, you pay something that's called mortgage insurance. And they had made a rule that was just released maybe 3 weeks ago that says, hey, congratulations, for these new FHA loans, we're going to lower the mortgage insurance, which would help people with their lower monthly, lower their monthly payments, because it's an expense you pay with your mortgage. we got an email yesterday, and I'm sorry, I'm laughing. We got an email yesterday that says, we just received word that the incoming Trump administration has said that they might repeal the mortgage insurance premium, so you may not want to tell your clients that their payments are dropping. And literally, I'm sitting there saying, man, white people can do whatever they want. They can make rules and just do this stuff. And you see it every day, but it was just amazing. Like, they make a rule and then they're like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to do this anymore. And with FHA loans, a large portion of black people and poor people, but a large portion of black people use FHA loans as well. So that's going to affect them. Another thing was just sitting today at work. I had time to read. And somebody walked by. It was another non-white person that walked by, and it was like, what were you reading? I was reading the Ta-Nehisi Coates article that he had written about Barack Obama, and it had mentioned all these different people, and I got to share the cows with somebody, and I said, this is a good article. I said, if you read this and then read Gwen Eifel's book study, I said, I think you might find that constructive. And then they started asking about the cows and about the show. And so I got to share that information with them. And then the final thing was, I had shared last week about a white female that was terrorizing black males and getting together with them and just, having relationships with them and leaving them, having relationships with them, leaving them. And so what I found to be huge was I work with another realtor. Her and I are really good friends, non-white female, less confused about racism. And we were talking about this white female because she's representing her, and it wasn't even gossip. She had just mentioned, like, hey, do you know what happened with her and this other black male that she was with? And I was like, yeah, it's just tacky. She's just, I don't even know what I said, but I said, it's just tacky. But I said, this seems like something she is doing a lot, particularly to black males. And I said, it could be racism. She said, yeah, you're right. She said, she came by my house today, one day, and whenever she comes by, I don't know what it is, if she has one of these single white females things, but she says, I suspect that she might be trying to do something to my family, so I make sure that my husband and my children are not at home. And I just said, that's fantastic. I literally said, you're practicing black self-respect. I said, that's a wonderful thing. I said, because no black male that has been with her has left in a good situation. And so that's just good, because sometimes we're thinking that other people are not aware of what's going on and how white people are behaving. So that was a good thing. And then, Gus, I know probably this is more the compensatory calling, but that gentleman, Wes Bellamy in Charlottesville, I shared with you at his job and what he does as a councilman. He's being terrorized at his job as well. I'm going to try to reach out to him to see if he wants to call into the cows. It may or may not happen, but he's got white people down there in Charlottesville, Virginia, calling him names, threatening his family, and that's just pathetic, but that's just what happens in the system of racism. So I just gave him some encouraging words just to keep moving along. Thanks, and I'll meet my mind.
Right on. Lots of folks making an effort to share counter-racist material with other non-white people that they work with. That is right on, trying to get the content out. Outstanding. Other folks who dialed in who have a hand up, if you either have questions for any of the folks who've shared thus far, or if you want to share your own situation, feel free. I'll give out the number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. All the folks who dialed in with a hand up should be with us.
Have you heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Gus, and the rest of the callers and the listeners on the line. This is Rob calling from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just got a quick observation from inside the classroom today. Unfortunately, it was with another black person. I didn't argue or nothing with her. I just excused myself from the situation. But it was school, So, it kind of got me bent out of shape a little bit. But lining up with the clip that you played, I didn't hear it. But I was actually just speaking with Thomas in New York and Roz through an observation that I had in another situation, and I was expressing to Thomas in New York. It seems that I'm experiencing have been experiencing a constant symbolic castration when it comes to black females. But so in class, I was asking a professor a couple of questions about what's the difference between having a degree and having a license. And I guess I was just asking too many questions. So the black female said, all right, can we get back on task or back to something? And finding that, like I said, I was asking too many questions, and I politely said, by all means, let's move the program right along, and sorry for taking up so much time. And I politely excused myself from the situation. And thank you for letting me share.
Sorry you had to deal with that. That is very common. I know you said your pattern has been it's been black females, I guess, that have been either rude or discourteous in how they've dealt with you. This is a classroom situation. But that's very common in terms of black people being rude and discourteous to other black people, black males to black males, black males to black females to black males, black females to black females. That, unfortunately, is a major byproduct of the system of white supremacy, that anti-blackness. And in a lot of situations, it's kind of, depending on what it is, it's not like you're going to have a whole lot of options, particularly in that situation where she's got more power than you in that limited sphere of the classroom. If she's the teacher, you're the student. Just sounds like you did some black self-respect on your own, and not retaliating and just being courteous and trying to move things along. But I mean, that is super irritating to have to deal with, that just constant contempt and disrespect, even from other victims. Other folks have comments, questions, your own situation you'd like to share? Feel free.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, everyone. I kind of like just tuned in, but a couple of days ago, I was at a park and was calling myself working out, and just some guy that knew me from a long time ago was talking on the phone, kind of like informing, which I assume was another non-white person, about the advantages and disadvantages of being employed by the local, quote-unquote, government, state, or federal government. And all in all, I thought the conversation was a constructive one, because first and foremost, he was trying to constructively inform another non-white person, and I thought some of his points that he was making that was true, but mainly because I worked on a job that was controlled by the county and state, and that's always good to know before a person attempts to enter into a job, whether it's quote unquote some kind of private industry or public industry, and if the other callers wouldn't mind, that maybe they can chime in and give their their pros and cons about working for the county and state. The advantages that he mentioned about is the retirement as far as they're concerned. In some cases it's acceptable. You know, we're on the system of racism, white supremacy, so we know anything can happen. As let's say as the city of Detroit, that sort of thing, and probably some other places where people's pensions have kind of like disappeared for various reasons. But that's the only thing that I could think of as far as this week, as far as workplace racism, more so in a constructive way, a positive way, as opposed to some of the damage that's been done to us personally. I just think it's important to, if someone has some kind of experiences on the different types of jobs, whether it's private or public or state or federal level, and the advantages of it, if they can share that with somebody else, especially a younger person, then that's always a good thing to do, so they can make a better decision on which way they go as far as they're concerned. That's basically all I have for this week. Thank you.
Wow. If folks want to respond on that in terms of pros, cons, working for the county or the state or whatever it is, feel free. I know that has been my experience as well, in terms of, and I think other people as well. I think that was a part of why we got to doing the workplace racism program, and even doing a whole program by itself for workplace racism. Feeling like as black people that we were not being included in those conversations to get more information about the workplace. Racism certainly, but just having better details, so that, as exactly as the retired firefighter said, so that you can make better informed decisions about your career and how you're going to pursue things on the job. Like, I didn't get that sort of information at all. And I mean, then when you add into that not being given information about racism, like, oh man, like that puts you at an extreme disadvantage. I think that's the way Dr. Cambon would state it. I don't know if folks wanted to respond to that, pros, cons.
Just one more thing before someone else, because some of the stories that I've been hearing since you started this very important segment of your program, I'm talking about some serious horror stories that would be a little bit more difficult for a white person to do to you directly, or the job itself do to you directly, and some other aspects such as maybe a county or state or federal, because some of those experiences that I've heard on your program, Gus, boy, look at here, man, it would have been a little bit more difficult to happen from where I worked at. I put it that way, because they would have had to also mistreat a whole lot of other white people in the same way in a lot of cases, and so those are just my experiences as opposed to some of the ones that I've been hearing. Go ahead. If anyone else wants to join in, I'll keep quiet.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I've never worked for the government or the state or the federal government, but I'm connected with a lot of people that do. And in my observation, you may experience more terrorism on the job, and what I mean by that is I think you have to assimilate more so than people that's not connected to those institutions and or organizations. But the benefits, I use that word, I think that you will be more comfortable on the global ship of white supremacy when you are connected to one of those institutions. And because in Milwaukee right now, it's horrible conditions for black people. And you have some that's doing well, and then you have the others that's not doing well. And the line between the have and the have-nots is becoming more and more clear. And I'm a convicted felon, so at the age of 18, I was not able to work for what I call a good job. I was not able to obtain one of those jobs anymore, and I was totally unaware that the activity that I was engaged in would take me down that path. And I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I know I've worked at a state job, and my experience, I think, as Rob in Wisconsin said, those jobs can be more stable, where, at least in my experience, it's not like a seasonal thing. It's not like they tend to have a lot of layoffs and firings. Like it's something where they generally will have benefits and vacations, sick leave, all that. So what I say all that to say that you end up with a lot of white people who get very comfortable, a lot of racists who end up being in these positions for a long time. Like you'll have, in my experience, state jobs, it'll end up being whites who've been there 10, 15, 20 years. It's very, very common to find that sort of thing because they do tend to be very stable jobs where you can just be there, get all your benefits and what have you, retire, get a pension. I think now, certainly, as was mentioned before about Detroit, I mean, hey, they can, just come in and decide they're not going to do that or renege on it or what have you. But generally, it can be very stable. So I say all that. It can be, for black people in those environments, I found it can be difficult to get those types of jobs. It can be difficult to stay there. And I think the type of racism that's practiced, because you have whites who have worked there together for like 10, they've been there together. Like this is a clan for real. We've been together for 10, 15, 20 years on this job. So it can be like really ugly when you are in an environment where you have racists who have a racist network where they got like 15 years experience working together on the job. That's my experience on the state level in terms of just how it contrasted to non-state, non-government positions where I didn't see as many. There were still some people who had, that type of really long tenure, but I mean, it just was nowhere near what I saw with regards to state employment. Maybe that's not everyone else's experience. Other folks? Maybe nobody else had commentary on that portion. If you wanted to respond to that, feel free, or if you have your own experiences, if you have questions or comments about or what other folks have shared thus far, feel free. We do have spectators hanging out today. Said that looks like folks just hanging in and listening, which is not supposed to be going down for the workplace racism segment.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners and callers. I was thinking on that part where I think the segment was talking about black males being emasculated. And, I think about that sometimes too, like tone and communication in the house, and what you say to people. Like that was one of the conversations I had with the white guy that retired, my old supervisor. And he would always tell me, like, hey, when it comes to customer service, you want to make sure you have a calm tone and you're very certain in what you're saying, because, you may, like, I noticed that sometimes you might get, a little, nervous or whatever, and I accepted that criticism and I felt it was accurate. But, the constructive part of it was he was saying, because people can be very, I guess, erratic and very aggressive in their tone, try to intimidate you. And, you know, just make sure your tone doesn't climb and elevate over theirs, you know, and he would utilize that tactic. And it would, for the most part, get the customer to calm down. So we was talking about tone and communication. So that reminded me of that. And, like, you know, my tone of voice can definitely project in that kind of way. So, you know, I definitely think about that at times as how I'm being perceived and, you know, the way that I guess wear my clothes or how I walk or whatever. So, and there's a lot of females in the environment too. So I definitely try and watch out for that as well. But to talk about some other things, there was a time when I came into the break room and like these two white women really, they said, hey, we found a woman for you. we found a woman for you. So at the time, I guess they're still doing it now. They have this meme going around where they're saying tag blank, you know, or whatever given name in the photo, and they have these horribly unattractive females. So it was a East white woman on the picture, and these two white women were saying, "Oh, well, you know, we found you this woman right. we found you this woman right here." And I was like, "Man, stop playing around." So I just went to go eat my food or whatever. So apparently, I guess they had been conversing on trying to share that because it had my name on the meme, and I guess since it's a common name, they just thought, hey, this is the only person that I knew with this name, so they shared that with me. And another observation was I can't remember how it came about to this particular part, but I was talking about the word, I guess, dividend, I think. Yeah, that's what it was, dividend. And then divide and individual. I was talking about how similar those terms were because it has like the div in it. And then when like by the time I got to the word individual, and I looked up the three terms, and it has the word separate, to separate something in the definition. So this white woman, she just says, "Oh, well, you know, you're thinking too much. You know, you're thinking too much." That's what she said. You know, she was kind of smiling and smirking with it, but you know, I was on point. The terms do have similar definitions. Like I think Mr. Fuller pointed out, like when he was saying about politics and police and polite, like I was basically talking about that, you know, trying to mention something constructive. So yes, she ends out by saying that I was thinking too much. And the next was, I think somebody mentioned the MLK, you know, Martin Luther King holiday. Like there's this email that goes out before we go on that weekend into that Monday. And it's always, they use that same quote. The time is right. The time is something. The time is always right to do what's right. I think that's what it says. And they use that same little clip or the same little clip art on the email. So it's like they don't want to. I guess they just want to keep it limited or what they want to mention about Martin Luther King Jr. Because you know people are going to think that's bringing up racism or whatever. So I noticed that on the email, and there was this white female. I ended up asking her like how many questions you think I ask in a week, and she said, "Oh wow, you know what? I think you ask about 500 questions in a week." That's what she told me. So I was thinking about that when you was talking about like the ratio 7-1. And one last thing about Martin Luther King, like she said, she brought up this before. Like I shared this, that she was talking about another white woman that was moved to another location, and she was talking about how she would practice blatant racism. But she went into detail this time. She was saying, like, she was talking to another white woman, and she said, when it comes to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, she just gets very upset about that. And she was saying, you know what, that's just so blatantly racist. She was just saying that it was racist of her to do that. She's talking about another white person this way. And she said that, oh, well, she was speaking about me, like when I would come into the office, her Confederate flag decorated cup, her mug, she would turn it when I would walk in. And I'm like, just listening, and she was sounding very detailed in how this person's conduct was. And she said, this person mentioned to our old supervisor, well, man, can we get George Washington's birthday off or something? Because if we can get the black man's holiday off, why we can't get the white man's holiday off? And she was calling them racist and things like that, but I didn't hear her tell me that before, so I just basically took that all in, and that's all I have for now. Thank you.
It's always suspicious when somebody tells me that I'm thinking too much, or really anytime someone tells a black person, a victim of racism, that they're thinking too much. I always find that to be suspicious. Like, how much thinking am I allowed? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes? Like, what's the limit of thinking here, just so I'll know? That is real curious about the white woman, because that's generally that's generally a racist code violation for a white person to be snitching out another white person like that. And I mean, like in detail, to list a whole bunch of different violations like that is extremely rare in my experience. White people generally strive really hard to not do that. So I don't know. That she probably has some sort of ulterior motive outside of just making sure that you don't think of her as racist. But she, I don't know if she wants to get this other white woman fired or if they have some type of beef between them. Like I think the caller that reported earlier, when the white guy came into the company, he overheard this other white guy say nigger, and he reported it, and I think he got a promotion. Might have even taken his spot. Like, if it's something like that, where it's like, oh, yeah, I don't particularly care for, Ted. Yeah, I'll just give it. Oh, yeah, he said nigger, and right on. Not that I'm not racist. I just don't particularly like Ted, the racist, that sort of thing. So I would just be very alert in terms of, why is she doing this? Why are you telling me this information? And what sort of scheme is all of this attached to you presenting this information in detail? And apparently on more than one occasion that this other white chick over here is racist. Yeah. If other folks, if you all have questions, commentary you would like to share, feel free. All the folks who dialed in with the hand up, line should be open.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, greetings to you, the hosts, and the callers and the listeners. So I'm calling in again about my experience as a real estate agent. This past week has been, the past few months, just a little example of some of the racism I have experienced. I was trying to get my transcripts for one of the classes that I had taken, real estate related, and since November, the lady, really nice lady. She smiles a lot, talks to you really kindly, but she just wouldn't give me my transcripts. But she kept giving me reasons, like the only person who could handle the transcripts wasn't there that day, but they would be there like the next day, but she wasn't there whoever this person wasn't there the next day. Okay, she's going to be in next Monday. And it was this next Monday thing, for the last 3 months. So I never actually got my transcripts, and I ended up having to put in a form that is like an open records request, which basically means I don't have to go to that particular real estate school to get my transcripts. The commission already had my transcript, so they was able to pull it. But the thing is, for 3 months, I'm going through this, trying to get something that's kind of simple, but it really makes a difference on whether I can move forward with certain aspects of my license. And while they were making this decision, I kept going back and forth and deactivating my social media accounts because, I talk about racism because I have to end this system. Like we all have to really, really seriously end this system. So, I talk about it on my social media and then wherever else I get a chance to do it. But I deactivated my account, every time I figured they're looking into my background and everything like that. But it's more than, it's just irritating, It's small things, but it's not really small. That's one thing. And then the other thing, just dealing with land. I think we are not going to end this system by doing something within the system. Perhaps we could. Like I'm totally for Dr. Claude Anderson's his plan for Black America, and it's just again, white people can do anything in the world. They own everything, and they make the rules. So, at one point we owned several million acres of land. And now we don't own much anything. And then again, we didn't really own anything to begin with. But the point being, they can change the rules. Is really we're only going to solve this problem, in my strong estimation, by eradicating the ice albino altogether. And land is not purchased in paper dollars. It's only purchased in blood. We're going to have to be able to stomach that. But okay, thank you.
Other folks who dialed in, if you had questions or comments you wanted to share, line should be open. Your volume is pretty low.
How about now? Is it better?
Much better.
I'm in. Greetings, beautiful people. I have a couple of different things from different experiences and observations, so I am going to try my hardest to be concise and make sense. So this is Emmy, aka 1842. I left my job last Friday. I'm the one that's the commuter, live in Virginia, work in D.C., but anyway, I am done with that location, and I left. So the caller who was talking about, sharing his experience about when he got laid off, I didn't get laid off, so they knew that I really didn't have a reason to be sad, but they still wanted me to be sad. Like, it was clearly evident, and, I flaunted my happiness. Like, I wore a pretty dress, the weather was really nice, I ordered whatever expensive thing I wanted. I just had a really great time, and I flaunted it. And you could just see in their face that they were not okay with me being in a good place and being satisfied with how I left. They would have much rather had the opportunity to fire me and ruin my life and send me in some kind of chaotic tailspin. But because I left on my own accord, in my own way, and very professional and in a correct way, they were not pleased at all. And they were very tacky towards the end of that lunch. I had to deal with more sexual harassment, but no one touched me. So moving on. So then with that same situation, I'm contracted. So I am in school. So I have quit the job. I'm a full-time student, but I still have to work on the weekends, which means I stayed with my contracted company. One of the benefits to being contracted, I can just leave a location when those hours or whatever doesn't suit me and have practically immediate placement. So this is something when I put my 2 weeks in, I immediately moved into the let's find me my weekend placement. I want an overnight thing. that will allow me to still kind of like tune into the cows and be left alone and study, and no one's going to bother me because I won't have to deal with too many people because it's overnight. So anyway, so I'm talking with, and I am going to name this white witch Cassie. So there's a placement, and so we're talking, and she's also the HR manager. Now let me back up a little bit of historical context here. So when I started this concierge position, that was only so I could have experience as the concierge to move into the HR manager position with the host company. But they were like, well, if you can, just do this for a little bit, that way when we bring you in, you completely understand what it is that people will be doing because you'll be an account manager as well. So you don't want to just, and that made total sense. Like, you don't want to be supervising people. You have no idea about the job, what it is that they do. So at the time, there was a non-white black female victim of racism. So, whatever. But she was not feeling the idea of me coming on board to the HR team. And she wanted this white girl. So the white girl got it. And who knows who's behind that or whatever. It doesn't matter to me at this point. This is like 2 years and some change ago. So whatever. But it meant that I kind of got trapped in the position that I was in. Because I only did that to segue into the HR position, which of course, better pay, better benefits, it's not contracted and so forth. So this white wench knew about this. Same white wench I'm dealing with. Like, she knew, because it was very open, you know what I mean? Like, the black female was like, oh, that person, whatever. And this is what it is. So now, fast forward to this conversation. Now I'm like, well, hey, I'm in school, so weekend placement. I hear you have the building. It's like the building that you manage. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling on this thing. I would like to use my PTO that I had saved up. And at the time, I had like 101 hours, and I had not used it. And intentionally, I had been planning this kind of move for a while. So I had actually inquired into my PTO and everything, right? So I wanted to just use my PTO. That way I have a little bit of time to get acclimated to class. I have some money coming in. I need to know how much money that's going to be so that I can make sure I budget and I'm good to go. I think this is very standard, very professional conversation. I keep calling and calling, like that was written, right? So now she's like, she'll call me, but it was like my last day, so I'm not at my desk because I'm floating around the building. So I call back. I say, hey, call my cell. I leave a message, hey, call my cell because I'm not at the desk because I'm floating around the building. She refuses to call my cell, and like this thing goes on forever, right? So then, so I follow up, and we finally have a conversation like days later, and pretty much, they lie to me and tell me that I'm being paid forward, which doesn't make any sense to me, which means that the paycheck that I would have just received, I'm going to try to make this clear, the paycheck that I would have just received is for 2 weeks that I haven't worked. That's what it means, essentially, to be paid forward, and that I don't have a final check. Now, when I look at my pay stub, excuse me one second. Sorry about that. When I look at my pay stub, it says 12/15 to 12/31. And I got paid on the 13th, right? They're saying, no. People who are salaried, they don't go off the dates on the pay stub. We actually pay you off forward. So you would have been paid, like you're not, that's incorrect. To me, that doesn't really make sense at all. But okay. So I'm like, well, if that's the case, I just need to see the pay stub from the first time, just so I can verify that I was, like I didn't work in the hole, because had I worked in the hole, that's the money that I would be receiving now. She tells me, nope, there's none of that. But I don't recall that because I remember working and being broke when I first started this job. But okay, so I'm like, all right, whatever. This is the move that I've made. Like, I have my chessboard laid out. I'm really not trying to go through too much right here because I'm not ready to make the next leap. If I leave this host company, I'm thinking this is supposed to be worked out. I had planned it out well. So she tells me that they switched systems last year, so she can't provide for me a pay stub in 2014. Now, I don't think that makes any sense. Logic says that no company just automatically dumps all of their pay stubs for all their employees from the beginning till 2015, and they don't have access to that. That, to me, just doesn't really make sense. I don't see, because everything's electronic, so even if you switch companies, I think there would just be files and all that kind of stuff. I could be totally incorrect, but I feel like they're taking advantage and just not trying to pay me. And so then for this weekend location, so we're talking, and I'm being totally professional, just asking questions. And she asked me for, like, my resume and all this other kind of, and then I'd have to meet with the property manager and all this stuff. Like, mind you, I just left, like, the Class A building of Class A buildings. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I said, who needs the resume? And she says, well, I do. Now, mind you, like, if the property manager said it, okay, the property manager doesn't know me, so he would like to see a resume. But if I've been with the company for a very long time, there's really no need to see a resume in my work history. And especially if this white wench knows exactly who I am and what we've done, what does she need to see a resume for? But I said, all right, fine, whatever, moving on. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do for it. I have provided the resume because the thing is, I need my gas money more than I need to have any kind of stress with this white wench. This is not a place that I'm trying to stay, and I don't have any points to prove, so it is what it is. I just need to keep making sure I have enough money to get to class and do what I need to do until I make my next move. But now it's evident that I definitely have to make a next move because I don't really want to deal with, like, this. This is tacky and, it's just there's no recourse for it. It's racism. It is what it is. I'm not going to stress about it. I just wanted to share it with you all. So, so then let's see here. So I told you all I am in class now. So I'm in one of my classes. I have a book, right? The book is not bound, so it's like loose leaf. I put it in a purple binder. So it's kind of heavy, so I'm like, well, you know what? We're not going to skip around the book, so I take the first chunk of the book and I put it in the binder. I go to class. I'm sitting there. There's like a lady from like Pakistan or something sitting to my left or whatever. She doesn't have her book. So I wanted to ask the teacher, I just wanted to make sure, I noticed that there did seem to be a little bit of jumping around, but could you provide for me a schedule that kind of lays out what modules or what chapters we're going to be doing when, so I can make sure I always have them because I don't want to lug around this extra heavy book. So as she's coming, she sees, because I was letting the girl next to me see the thing. So I pull it, and she makes a face as if I took, and she's like, I was like, no, that's my book. I just asked you a question about my book, and I'm about to show you in my book what I have and what I don't have. Like, what are you talking about? You think I'm just going to reach over and grab somebody else's book? So we had this entire exchange. Like, it was nonverbal because she was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? You took the report. Like, wait, we'll pause. You know what I'm saying? I raised my hand. This is my book. You see? Racist. You know what I mean? You assume that I'm doing something wrong because I'm black. It couldn't be something totally else. Oh, well, she let her borrow a book. She's asked me a question about the book because she pulls the book to show me. It reminds me of the study of the pictures that they showed white and black kids with one person who was like, the white or black child was either in the swing or on the ground, and white children always assumed that the black child pushed the white child out of the swing. But when the colors were reversed, it was the white child was helping the black child because the black child fell. Like, get out of here, racist. Glad you showed your butt now. Anyway, so then in psychology class, I didn't really know this, but it's mandatory that all psych students have to participate in experiments. The way the woman is talking about it, she's skating around it. And I'm like, so I raised my hand. Questions. Here we go. Are these real experiments or are these hypothetical? Because I have no problem with hypothetical experiments, but what are you talking about? So these are actual real experiments that you have to take time out and you have to do like 6 online and like 6 hours or whatever in person where they make you participate in people's experiments. I'll tell you all how I'll proceed. If they're black and they're doing something black and wanting to talk about racism, I will participate. If not, she and I will have to go back and forth in written communication about what my replacement assignment will be, because I am not participating in any white people's social, psychological experiments. They've done it enough, so I'm not doing that to further any white person's research at all. And then I'll just tell you this last one. I have other ones, but this one is just like really fascinating. So I'm in Spanish class. And I'm not, like, my codification is not to talk a lot. So I'm just chilling, sitting. And, they're all talking, and white people just love to be better than everybody. And so they're sitting there talking, like, in Spanish, too, and this white professor walks in, and, he's all happy because he's learned some Spanish and whatever. So he starts discussing, like, a slide, or, like, it's a website, a translation website. But based off of the way that he was speaking, I wasn't 100% sure if he was saying that we could use the website or not. So in Spanish, and I do speak Spanish. Like, I'm in the class so I can become literate and become more literate and write. But in actually speaking, I can speak fine. So I speak, are you saying that we can use this to translate, or are you saying not? And there was this white female who literally could not contain her vitriol and contempt at my Spanish. And to the point that she was sitting to the right in front of me a little bit, that she turned around. But, I was looking right at her. I was like, oh, I wish you would. So when she realized that I was staring at her, she decided not to make eye contact, and her eyes fell all the way to the ground. Now, that's interesting in and of itself, but this continues, because now the whole class reacted like, whoa, 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 whoa. We just thought that was a regular, Negro wench over there. Like, wait a minute, what did she do and speak Spanish better than all of us? Like, we're white, we're supposed to do everything better than anybody else, and what is this? She's supposed to speak Ebonics, meat, fried chicken. Like, that's pretty much how everyone reacted. So I pay attention. So I'm giggling now because I'm like, whoa, what I would do to just have all the COWS listeners here see all this. So it keeps going. The whole class is in Spanish. So then I ask another question just to make sure I'm understanding the material or whatever. So I go to ask this professor a question, this time just in English, because I was like, you know what, his Spanish is just like, whoa. So, blah, 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 blah. She don't even let the professor respond. She's so ready to check me. She turns and she's like, he's saying da-da-da-da-da. Now, mind you, I have not said anything to this white wench. I haven't dealt with her. I haven't thrown her any shade. I've been sitting behind her, so she doesn't even really see me. She just knows there's a black female sitting behind me. And now she calls herself majoring in Latin studies or whatever. And, I just giggle because I'm like, no one's, I could be real tacky and be like, no one was talking to you, and you're wrong anyway. That's what he gets paid to do, so, you could just shut up and have a seat. But I don't do that, of course. Dr. Welsing is always, talking about being courteous, so I completely just ignore, because that's about as much as I have for her. But I'm chuckling because what that says is, no matter what it is, and to the point now that even the things that we were once allowed to do better than them, we're not even allowed to do better than them anymore, whether the complete superficial things. So you're constantly around people who have to be better than you at everything. And white wenches, to the point, even so, they have to be better at you at getting black men. It's to the point that you can't be black and be good. You can't be black and be correct. You can't be black and be intelligent. You can't be black and this. And first of all, she's assuming that I'm her age. I'm not, but they always have to terrorize and check. So my codification is silence and observation, and I'll come and talk to you all about it. But I think I've talked enough, so thank you.
Wowee.
May I comment?
Oh, for sure. I guess we'll get the comment and then we'll get the female caller. What was your comment, sir?
Yes, quick question. What was the last caller, what was the study that was done on black and white children and swings? Do you have any more information on that, or where I could find information on that study?
Emmy, are you with us? Did you hit your mute button? Uh-oh. Not hearing you, Emmy. Oh, maybe she got, let's try it. All right, are you with us, Emmy?
Yeah, Gus muted me, y'all.
My bad.
I do not have the exact name, but give me 10 minutes. I'll hop on the laptop and I will find it. But it was on CNN with Anderson Cooper. Dr. Welsing had referenced it at some point. But I will find it and I'll get you the exact name. Just give me 10 minutes, okay?
Thank you.
Right on. Just really quick before we get our female caller. Wow, if you, I'd recommend or request people that share on the workplace racism segment, if they can dial back in and kind of share updates. So, having that black self-respect and sticking to not participating in any of these experiments to further inform racists. You can let us know how that goes. If the white woman tries to be intimidating or to force you to participate in these studies, let us know how that goes. That'll be a great example of workplace racism and asking questions, and particularly since you said you're going to be trying to do it with via email, that'll be good too. You'll have a written record. And certainly, I think a lot of people can relate to that. White people, they are not impressed or excited to see competent, intelligent black people at all. Like, you're just another Negro. The female, Spanish-speaking Negro, no less. The female caller who just dialed in, did you have commentary?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Greetings. So this is my second time calling in. I'm new to listening to the show. The last time I called in, I asked for some advice on how to get out of going to the events on the job or parties. And I just wanted some suggestions on how to cope with being on these plantations, because the more I listen to your show, the more I become less confused, and it's kind of making me like just angry to go to, you know, the job every day and be around them, you know. So I just mainly wanted some suggestions on how to cope, because it's just really not easy for me to be on these plantations.
Have you thought about options where you wouldn't have to be there, where you could work from home, or something where you wouldn't have to be around white people? Have you thought about or put any energy into conceiving a plan where you could make that feasibly happen?
Not really, but I'm starting to think of some ways of starting a business on my own. But until then, I just mainly wanted some ways of how to cope, because I'm just really not happy, you know, going to these plantations and, you know, being around like confused black people. I mean, they irritate me, and then being around suspected white supremacists, and so it's just really difficult for me to cope. I'm just not happy at all.
Any of the folks on the line have suggestions? I think a lot of people can unfortunately relate to that, going into work and having to spend 30, 40, could be more than that, hours a week at a place that you despise, around race soldiers and victims who might be demonstrating a lot of anti-blackness. Folks have any suggestions?
May I comment?
Yes, sir.
Yes, for the caller, when I worked for the corporate plantation, I had a challenge with the same thing. I would feel very, very strong periods of anger and almost a violent anger towards them when they would practice racism openly towards me. What would help me often was earphones, because I was able to listen to constructive material to keep my mind focused on maintaining black self-respect, maybe listening to the cows, maybe listening to some good lectures. Dr. Cambon helped me a lot listening to his cow shows and his lectures. There's a lot of different lectures we can listen to, audio books. There's a lot of good black audio books. So the headphones was something that helped me. Also, preparing myself when I was not at the plantation, when I was away at my home, I was trying to prepare my mind. Unfortunately, in the system of racism and white supremacy, it shouldn't ever go away, that feeling that you have. And that is just a feeling of awareness. So I would strongly not take the advice to ignore the feeling or let it go, because we should be uncomfortable, because it is a system of global terror. But preparing our minds for that beforehand, and usually trying, if you can, on this particular job, listen to constructive material will help to keep your mind in a good place. Thank you.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to reply to the lady caller that was looking for a suggestion. I feel the same way. Sometimes I live here in Bellevue, Washington, and the only person I really have to talk to when I come home from the job or school is my boyfriend. He's the one that kind of got me watching this show for several months now. I'll just watch it on and off with him, but we started to go to the gun range. It's good to protect yourself, and you know, if you feel angry or frustrated, like the last caller said, you're always kind of going to feel like that in this system, and so you should just use it positively and constructively because it's everywhere you go. And so going to the gun range really helps me once a week. It takes out some anger, and also it's good to protect yourself. You know, you have these feelings for a reason, and white people are protecting themselves all the time, practicing. And so I think we should as well. Thanks for listening.
Hang on a second there. Bellevue, Washington, like the Bellevue, like right next to Seattle, Bellevue?
Yeah, actually I'm in Renton, but I do work in Bellevue.
Wacky.
But I'm from Bothell.
Wacky. That is, wow. We will have to grab a coffee one day. That is wacky.
Definitely.
Other folks have comments, suggestions for the female caller? I can definitely echo on the taking care, like preparing, really making sure that you're thinking of this. Like I'm going behind enemy lines, and I know that certainly adds another element. I know for some people it kind of depends on your temperament. I know for some people it's more frustrating for them, or it's more challenging to be around a lot of victims where they're, you know, the anti-blackness is going on, if they're name calling or just that sort of thing, where it's not, you know, it's not constructive relationships happening on the job with the black people. That can be more challenging. I know for other people it's, you know, the whites that and them just being racist and tacky, that ends up being more challenging. But really making sure that you're thinking that I'm going to be in a war zone. And I've said before, like meditating, if you can, we should all be getting to work early anyway. That should be a part of your code. So that's not, you know, an easy one. Like, so you've been showing up, you know, 30 seconds late every day. We got to let you go. So if you're getting to work early, plug in maybe an extra 5-10 minutes where you can just have time to meditate. If you drive, you can do it in your car. If you take the train or carpool or whatever, you can make, you know, just 10 minutes where you can just sit quietly before you leave your residence. And just kind of focus. Just you can think. You know the people that you've been around. If you've been on your job more than a few days or a few weeks or what have you, you know the types of things that are likely to happen. Some sort of tacky comment or them trying to mess you over in this sort of way. Like just processing that out in advance. The types of response. If you're going to say anything, am I going to ignore? Thinking of that ahead of time, I think that can be very, very helpful. That way you're not getting surprised and caught off guard. You've already thought about this. You're prepared for this. I think that can be very helpful. And then finding things to do that are replenishing in your time away from the plantation. Self-care, I think that's one of Solange's songs on her most recent project. Self-care is really important. Like, make sure you do things that are constructive and replenishing, things you enjoy doing. If it's taking a hike, if it's people that you have constructive time with that actually replenish your spirit and make you feel better, spend some time with them. If it's healthy foods that are nourishing for your body that you enjoy, have those. Like, I would try to make your residence as replenishing as possible, so that it can just be a source that you can just go and detoxify from the work environment. I think a lot of people, they go from a stressful work environment. A lot of victims, unfortunately, we go from a stressful work environment to a stressful home environment, a stressful commute. It's just, you know, more toxic. Try to get some things that help you alleviate some of that anger and tension. Go into the gun range. Great suggestions. Any folks have other suggestions they would like to share?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Just because I know sometimes there are females can be a little less inclined for the gun range, but I myself am a fan of the gun range too. I think that is very, very constructive. But also, like, one of my other things that I have to do is the gym. Just because it has so many benefits, like just cardio or exercise, getting your heart rate up too. So it doesn't have to be at the gym. Like, there are so many other ways that you can do it. I just call it the gym, but exercise, because it helps to relieve the tension and the stress, increase endorphins, and just like it only even takes like 3 to 4 weeks. And like studies show that sustained exercise, anywhere from like 3 to 5 times a week, is more effective than some of the leading antidepressants and antipsychotics. So, and abstaining from, getting drunk or weed and stuff like that, just kind of helps, because it just buffers my mind and it makes me feel stronger. Like, being physically strong helps to translate to being like mentally strong and capable. But also, like, one of the more like kind of subtle mental things is, it is annoying. I giggled when you said, people get on your nerves. Everybody gets on my nerves. So I totally understand. But instead of it being like I just have to be a part of the scene, I just take more of an observer stance. And then I just look forward to opportunities to share it with like the cows or other people who are like into discussing, having constructive conversation about racism, white supremacy. So, I just observe, spend a lot more time observing than feeling like, this is what I'm doing, or this is where I'm at, or anything like that. That way it's like I'm just removed from it. I hope that helps. Thanks.
Any other suggestions? Maybe folks will ponder some more. Man, we have folks in Bellevue and Seattle calling. That is wacky. I had no idea. Other folks that we have not heard from have comments that they wanted to share. Feel free.
Really quick, I just wanted to tell the caller it's posted on Facebook.
Oh, the study about the swing set?
Yes, it's
awesome.
Posted.
It's posted on Facebook where exactly?
On your page.
Oh, okay.
On Gus's page.
Grand. Facebook.com/the problem is white people. Folks that we have not heard from who had commentary they wanted to share.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
This is the other shadow caller. Greetings to everybody. Greetings, Gus. For the female caller looking for ways to cope, I think I would use rhythm. And Gus, you always say rhythm helps you time that meaning, and that resonates. But I kind of already felt that in terms of like, whistle while you work. Always, staying aware of what's going on, but also to the point of, like, when you have the headphones on, they don't want to bother you. Sometimes when I look like I'm humming something to myself, like have a rhythm in my head, it serves the same effect. It's a visual representation of a thought occurring in my head that don't bother me. I'm trying to figure this whatever in my head out. So they typically do that. And also, it just reminded me of where that came from, from the plantation, the formal plantation, and what other things they would think of besides whistling. Not that clearly, those methods worked and whatnot, but it's just, we're talking about keeping your mind occupied and productive. And so getting into a good rhythm of doing your work and in your head. And I first started doing it, I think my first job was at a Subway, and they have in architecture they call it the kitchen triangle, where from the sink to the stove to the refrigerator, you want to make them as small space as possible. in order to maximize efficiency. And so I would kind of do a dance in between those three, and it just helps the time go way faster. So that would be my few suggestions.
Great recommendations. Great recommendations. If other folks had suggestions, that's fine too. But if you wanted to share your own incident, if you haven't been able to share about your own personal situation, feel free.
So are you speaking with me?
Just the callers in general.
Okay.
Anybody we missed? Anybody who has a hand up who's not been able to share at all their own situation?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. This is Ken Steele. I am reporting from Irvine, California today. And I just wanted to say a recommendation to the previous caller. It sounds like was asking for suggestions about how to cope with her work environment. It sounds like she may be in an environment that it just might not be a good fit for her personality. And from what I've seen, that never works out well. If you endure this environment that's causing you this much distress, all it does is exacerbate any sort of stress-related ailments or problems that you can have going down the line. And if you keep going back, you run the risk of going into full meltdown on the clock, and that could cause problems for future employment. So you may want to just take your feelings into consideration and look for a new plantation to collect your coins at, because the amount of stress that I can hear in your voice, it just doesn't sound very healthy for somebody to be that distressed on the job. Yes, racism is present at the workplace, but your workplace doesn't have to be a source of that much stress in your life. So perhaps you should look for new positions within the same field, because not all workplaces are alike. As other callers have indicated, people have their preferences or different environments that trigger them more. One of my, I guess, a sign that I'm in a bad environment is if there is too much communication that is not work-related amongst coworkers. If the social situation at a workplace is such that everybody is hanging out and everybody is constantly together and everybody is clicking up and not focusing on work, I just can't operate there. I'll get eaten alive. I will be identified as somebody who is not a so-called team player or not with the program or just not a cultural fit, and they'll remove me. This has just happened in my experience. So whenever I find myself in those work environments, I just remove myself. I make sure to have everything in line before I depart, but I try to make an arrangement beforehand. And even if I don't have an arrangement set up, I've left jobs. I don't have a family that I have to take care of, so I have that freedom, and I live a lifestyle that doesn't demand too much money, so I definitely have that mobility option. So that's how I cope with it. I'll just leave. If a situation is that bad, I will just leave. Also, I just wanted to double down on some information that I conveyed on the last broadcast of the compensatory call-in, I believe. this is just information that it might be new to some of you, but I don't know, or you might already know it. But there was a story that I read recently about the recruiters for Facebook. They're having a lot of trouble getting what they called diversity candidates past hiring managers. And what they found was that the hiring managers at Facebook were deliberately denying qualified non-white candidates. And as somebody that is in technical recruiting, I've definitely experienced that there are managers that are actively blocking qualified candidates. They will figure out some reason or another to say candidate XYZ is not qualified or not a good fit. And I've also seen situations where these same hiring managers will be presented with demonstrably less qualified candidates. And they'll even say, well, this candidate, his communication skills are a little lacking, he's a little quiet, or he doesn't have the level of experience that I was initially looking for, but, oh, this is a good chap. I mean, they'll literally say stuff like that. And it's just, like I said last week, it's heartbreaking to see that even when dealing with talent that is super hard to come by, that is super skilled, you're still seeing people react this way to victims of racism, and we're still seeing this racism thing play out even at that high level. It's just super frustrating. I'll say something that happened recently at my job that I think is worth noting is that I believe that they have not taken any personal days on this orientation that I'm on, and the Martin Luther King Day holiday was coming up, and I remember we received an email a week prior explaining that we do not have Martin Luther King Day off, and that it was giving they gave a whole list of the holidays that we do have off for the year, and Martin Luther King Day was not listed. And this is just this is something that I've experienced at a lot of private sector jobs. They will specifically make a point to tell everybody that that Martin Luther King Day is not going to be celebrated and is not going to be recognized. This is just a standard email that I've received in my years in the workforce. So my regular practice for this is, hey, look, it's Martin Luther King Day. I'm going to take a day off. I don't care. I call in sick. This year I had an engagement to get to in Inglewood, so I told my manager, look, I'm not coming in today. I have personal matters to address, and then I ended the email with the King Day. That way, it's just, hey, look, there's no question about this. I'm definitely taking the day off in relation to the Martin Luther. So when I get back from this, to not be in the office, and I'm reminded that I have certain metrics or whatever to hit, and this, that, or the other. And I've noticed that the demeanor of my manager has significantly changed towards me. His demeanor towards me has significantly changed. And I was putting in some extra hours this week, and I stayed till when the place was practically. And I, just out of curiosity, I was just looking at some of the photos and some of the knickknacks that my manager had accumulated over the years that he had pasted on his cubicle. And one of the things is these two right next to each other. One clipping is of a news report of a gorilla going ape, apparently, and killing 4 people at a Dallas zoo. That was the headline. Gorilla goes ape at. And then right below this newspaper clipping is a screenshot from Bad Santa where
your line is breaking up.
I believe who's the guy that movie with oh, hello?
Yes, just your line is breaking up a little bit. Your line is breaking up a little bit. Can you hear us, Mr. Steele? Can you hear us, Mr. Steele?
Oh, can I be heard now?
Yes, we can hear you. It's just your line was...
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. It was just your line was breaking up a little bit. We heard the Bad Santa. He had the image at his desk area, I guess, of the gorilla killing the people in Dallas, and then he had a photo of Bad Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah, your line is still breaking up.
And then right below that, I think his name...
Yeah, your line
Billy Bob Thornton.
Your line is breaking up. It's worse now. It's worse.
Okay. Am I hurt? I'm gonna read.
I think you're saying you're gonna maybe redial because it's significantly worse. Like I could kind of hear before, but it's bad enough that I'm not able to hear now. Oh, okay, I guess he's gonna hang up and dial back in. Great. I got up to the Bad Santa part and the gorilla at the zoo. I am tired of hearing about gorillas. Having my retrospective on Obama, it's like every other article, somebody is calling him an ape, her an ape, all of them apes, just gorilla, ape, monkey, gorilla, ape, monkey, 8 years of gorilla, ape, monkey, gorilla, ape, monkey, gorilla, ape, monkey. Other folks have commented, oh yeah, I forgot to say that we're going to be on all day tomorrow. I don't know if I did, but I definitely would make sure I say it again because we're not doing the book study tomorrow. We'll be on starting very early in the morning, unfortunately. That's about the only bad thing about the day. But we'll be here at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Central, 8:30 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. That's Fridays, bright and early for the ceremonies, the inauguration. We should be on live for the swearing in. We might even broadcast some of that live, and then we'll sprinkle in our remembrances of the past 8 years of the Obamas in the White House. But that'll be Friday. Going to be a hoot. Looking forward to it. Okay, let's see if we have Mr. Steele back and clear. All right, let's see. Mr. Steele, are you with us, sir?
Okay, before I was on a VoIP line, so hopefully this is a little bit more clear. Can I be heard?
Sounds good so far. So we were at Bad Santa. Okay. He has a photo of the gorilla at the zoo.
Yeah. Okay, so he has the gorilla at the zoo, and then right below this photo is a picture of Billy Bob Thornton in Bad Santa, and right next to Billy Bob Thornton is that midget. There's in the movie. I don't know. I think I've seen Bad Santa 1 years ago. I wasn't even paying attention, but I think in the movie there's they have a character that's supposed to play Black Pete. I'm now that I know the history of Santa Claus and whatnot. It's a little elf that is his helper. And he's black, and he's got a little, is a midget. And he has this photo right there on his desk. And I'm just looking at this photo, and I'm thinking about the way that he's related to me up until this point. And I remember there was one outing that we had a week prior where it was the first time it was of, one of these happy hours things. And they took me there, and I remember he was, he had been drinking, this manager of mine, he had been drinking, and he kind of, said to me, hey, you're my boy, you're my guy. And, that kind of, I've heard managers use that type of language towards me, about their relationship towards me, but I've never had it underscored by an image that illustrates how he sees, I'm taking that as he sees himself as Bad Santa, and he sees the person next to him as little Black Pete. And I was wondering why I got hired for this job, because I got hired pretty quickly, and he seemed really excited to have me on the team. And I don't know, that whole thing just makes that whole image just kind of makes the way that he's been relating to me make a lot of sense. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of options that he has to post pictures, and I'm a little bothered by the fact that I have to stare at Black Pete standing next to Bad Santa every single time I have to look at this guy and talk to him at his desk. And that's what I'm dealing with on the plantation that I'm in. So I guess that's my contribution.
Wow. Done programs on Black Pete, Short Pete over in Europe, very, very popular just for the Christmas holiday that just passed by. That's exactly how white people see us. And even that's something that you can take note of. There have been so many people over the years since we've been doing workplace racism, and people have been saying that they have just been noticing the types of things that white people have on their desk. And it's been the exact same thing where people have said that they've had pictures. I think the image that I have up right now of the noose, we had people who said that they saw that happen on their job. And I've seen a lot of different news reports of that all the time. White people having either a picture of a noose. I think someone sent me the image. They had a picture. The white people had a picture up in the office area of someone being whipped. It was like they had added some workplace rule, like if you don't fill out your timesheets or whatever it is, there are consequences, and it showed someone being lashed, like on the plantation in Roots or something. But just those types of images. Sometimes it'll be flagrant images of black people. I think last week I mentioned that the guy said he was working on a site where they had porta potties. This is on the office desk specifically, but they had all this racist graffiti covering the porta potty. Just paying attention to stuff like that white people flagrantly display in the workplace, all around the office area, their desk, wherever it is, just showing you this is what we're about. This is what we're vested in. We're not ignorant. We're proud of terrorizing black people. Just that right there, being alert to your work situation. Can I
say something else real quick?
Is it going to be brief?
Yeah, real brief.
For sure.
I also noticed that on the clock, now I listen to the C.O.W.S, I listen to a number of different programs. That's one of the ways I cope with the workplace. I guess that's a suggestion. I have my headphones and I'm listening to my programs. And I noticed that my manager does the same thing. And I noticed that, he listens to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's podcast. And I think that, that to me, again, raises my racism antennas. I'm very familiar with Joe Rogan's history. I'm familiar with the people that he was inspired to create his broadcast based on, arch white supremacist, what's his name? Anthony Cumia from the Opie and Anthony show. So I'm just very familiar with suspected racists that, like MMA, that listen to Joe Rogan and apparently have pictures of Bad Santa on their desks with little Black Pete right there flanking his side. So that's just another thing that I've noticed about this environment that I'm currently in. And I don't know. It's just something I guess I'm going to take note of and proceed accordingly. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other folks, if y'all have commentary you want to share, do not dally. Go ahead and get your hand up if we haven't heard from you. If you're on the line, then speak up. I just want to share. A caller wrote this situation in, so I'll share. She says, "Dear Gus, long, drawn out, heavy sigh. I would love to contribute to the live conversation, but outside of holding up in the restroom at this time of year, my participation would disrupt the recording. However, my current situation is causing me to ask myself the ultimate question: am I willing, after the disillusion of a 2-decade career as a union carpenter, as a black woman no less, to slip further down the rungs of society by refusing to participate in the foolishness on my job, which pays a quarter of what I used to earn? Let me preface by saying that I am a customer service representative in a call center, a mindless task for me. I thought, foolishly, that this would be the perfect job to recover from the battle fatigue. So I'm currently working on my 3rd program each one a challenge appreciated for, if nothing else, breaking up the monotony. The 6-week training, my supervisor slept through the entire course and everyone saw it. Anyone else in the class, all black, just nod off, do it, and the perky white blonde would call you out in the midst of her best imitation of the teacher on Charlie Brown voice, proud of the basic PowerPoint presentation. Repeat, long drawn out sigh. She gave me a verbal warning Thursday without saying a word, and then the next day gave me a written warning, which she did verbally, for spending 4 to 13 minutes more than allotted time going to the bathroom. Wow, they time you going to the restroom. Needless to say, in a call center of this size, in this location, I am wholly overqualified for my current position. Having been responsible for many multiple $million-dollar projects. And conveniently, no phones, paper, pen, nothing is allowed on the floor. Needless to say, I asked for a copy in writing for my records. It has been a week, no copy. So I have not acknowledged them in the internal email system, and they do have a deadline. My supervisor, and I use that term lightly, assured me upon my request that it would not be a problem. Then, after abstaining from work the following Monday, the King holiday, I requested that 8 hours of my benefit time be applied to it. Again, she assured me that this would not be a problem. Today, I reminded her of both requests, which are both still pending to date. Here is my issue. Although I acknowledge racism, white supremacy, I refuse to pretend it isn't there. No matter how uncomfortable it makes me feel, I vocally abstain from holidays, military support, and state my reasons. I am not a company person. I want to do my job and be left alone. However, if you harass me about doing my job, I'm going to harass you about doing yours. Let's just say they don't like that on my job. Now, I've noticed a trend that the white people on my job are always telling a sob story of the depravity they've been exposed to at the hands of their own, and the black people on my job actually give them sympathy. I politely say I'm fatigued with the pain of my own people. I have no energy to sympathize or empathize with them. This I do vocally. Needless to say, very few people actually speak to me after the year and a quarter I've been there, and outside of the few I speak to as cover, if they pull the race card on me, none of the white people do unless necessary. So what do you think I should do? At this point, I'm ready to educate these mindless hicks on just how important they are when up against the corporate brand. They don't realize the power of social media when it comes to corporate brands. I've already garnered information that shows that when it comes to the time allotted on average for bathroom breaks, nearly 50% greater the number of facilities available, less than half per OSHA. Once I go there, as the song says, there should be no turning back. I'm not really sure what the question is. It was what should you? I'm not really. If it's the bathroom issue, if you have data that shows how, like, the average time an employee there takes to use the restroom versus the amount of time that you took to use the restroom. I think Mr. Fuller was talking about that in the audio that I played when we were kind of on early. If you have that data, then hey, things should be great. Now, they can still certainly practice racism, say we don't care about your data and whatever, but that should put you in a much better position if you actually have that information, if it's on the bathroom issue. I was going to say, and this has come up before, I actually thought about this when Mr. Steele was presenting about, I guess, making it known that you were taking Monday off for the Martin Luther King holiday. It reminded me, I think we had a caller some time back, they said they would go on the job and they wanted to make their feelings known, kind of similar to the sentiments expressed by the caller who wrote in. And they would wear shirts of like Nat Turner and Marcus Garvey. And the same question, would come to mind for all three. What problem are we trying to solve? Like the workplace, I've said consistently, the workplace is not the environment to talk about racism. The workplace is not the place to make your stand. I'm gonna show these white people. That's not the environment for it. Like, you have agenda in terms of why you took this job, and showing white people or letting them know, what you truthfully think, I don't think is high on the priority list of why most of us sign up for a job. I would not, that's not something I would recommend in terms of, I'm not going to listen to, or I don't listen to white people because I reserve all of my sympathy for my own. I just wouldn't say things like in the job. I think generally it's probably going to, I just haven't seen examples where it's going to improve your situation. If anything, exactly as you said, white people will stop speaking with you, and a lot of times that will be enough for them to start conspiring and looking to subject you to even worse treatment, if not actually firing you. So, if you've already been doing it, if that's your code, that's fine. But I just, in general, that sort of thing I've just seen most often what you can expect is going to make more problems for you. It's going to make your work environment more difficult. You're in an environment where the whites, they have more power than you do. You antagonize them, what have you. They're going to make things more challenging for you, and they're going to have a much easier time doing that than you are. I do, because I almost chuckled as reading. That is something I've been talking about a lot. Different non-white people saying white people come on the job and want to tell all of their sob stories and just demand your attention so they can talk about things that have nothing to do with the job. Ignore all of that, and I would just, pardon, Susan, Ralph, I'm really behind. I really don't have time to converse with you right now. Maybe we can catch up later, but I really can't pay attention. I'm really trying to focus and get this done. Thank you kindly. And it would be short. I would try and make that exchange as short as possible. And I've told other people who work with whites where they do this, you sit close together or you're in an open office space, so you don't have any privacy per se. And white people just feel like they can come up to you at your desk or just turn around. Ignore. Don't even give them eye contact. I'm at my work. I think the caller mentioned before about just you can be humming or have your headphones on. I'm working. I'm clearly working. I'm not paying attention to what you all are talking about or what you're doing. I'm here to work. And in fact, you can even just add that. Sorry, Pam. Sorry, Rob. I'm just here to get this work done today. I'll talk to you a little later and get right back on. And I don't think in too many work situations you're going to get in too much trouble for saying, sorry, Pam, sorry, Roger, or Mr. Johnson, or whoever it is. I'm just trying to get this done, trying to stay on task. We'll talk later. I don't think that's going to get you in trouble in too many work environments. Did folks have any response or questions to the email that was sent in, black female?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Well, this is to the other issue we addressed with the female. They was in Bellevue. Is how do you cope at work? And maybe to the female who wrote in, as far as what you just said, Gus, about basically, if it's vexing you that much and you haven't figured it out, wrap your head around it, enough, and you still care too much about what they think, it would be, in my experience, what the progression that I went through in my understanding. In terms of eventually getting to, they're like, okay, that's a robot. Or, a piece of machinery or something. There's a certain way you interact with it, the code. Also, I would say there in interactions, sometimes what works with me, maybe based on my personality, but I think it could be applied to numerous people. We're saying how to get out of conversations. Sometimes I end it with, a joke. I don't really recommend joking around white folks, but just, if you demonstrate just really quickly, succinctly, a meager quip, just a little bit of understanding of what they're talking about, but like kind of walking away at the same time you're saying it, it's like, and bottom line in it. And so then they see your body language and you've addressed what they're talking about. That's what they got for the day, and you can be on your way. And they'll get used to it. And it's nothing, I would say, any further than, like, let's say you saw them outside the job site and you both mentioned something about the parking situation. Same thing, same level of engagement with this white person. And, bottom line, what do you want to get out of the day? And as far as, I think Ken Steele was talking about finding a different job, and that's not always the easiest option for everybody. And I would say it's just, you could be in the same place and have a different attitude about that particular place. I think that's a big thing. And to use analogy, I would say sometimes they say the grass is greener, but to triangulate with another analogy, kind of the same thing, but another angle would say wherever you go, there you are. So you got to deal with life, on the terms that that you could wrap your head around it. And I would say have goals in mind, long-term goals, other things to think about, different focus, different evaluation of the situation, like I said. And I think that's about it.
The female caller in North Carolina, I don't think we'd heard from you. Did you have commentary you wanted to share?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm a second-time caller, and I just wanted to give a little bit of some workplace racism that I experienced, so that's what I called for. So, yes, I've been a hairstylist for like 15 years, and some time ago, several years ago, actually, I worked at a JCPenney salon. Now, at this time, I have worked at JCPenney. I worked at JCPenney collectively for almost 7 years. The first salon, the first JCPenney salon I worked at, I got transferred. So I got transferred into a new salon because I had moved. And when I first got there, I think there was maybe 3 black stylists there, including myself, and then the rest of the stylists were pretty much white. So it was probably like 15 white stylists. The manager was white. And so my workplace racism that I experienced, there was one particular stylist, a white stylist. She had actually worked at that JCPenney salon since the very beginning, since it opened. So she worked there for a total of 30 years. Now, at one time, she was the manager, and she eventually stepped down from management, so one of the other stylists had took on the management. I think at that time, I think she was a manager for about 10 years or something like that. So the stylists who took over, they were really good friends because they had basically worked at that salon for a very, very long time. So this is what I thought was very, very interesting about working at this salon. So one of the stylists, who was another black female, she was moving out to get her own salon. She does natural hair as well as myself. I do natural hair as well as other types of hair. So she was getting her own salon. So, people in the salon, they talk a lot. There's a lot of talking, and everyone knew she was getting her own salon. And so the rumors were that I was going with her, which was true, which is kind of like something in the salon. If you let people know what's going on with you, you never know what could happen. So she had already left the salon, and she had opened up her salon, probably, So I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and give in my I'm basically going to put in my paperwork to let them know that I'm leaving. So I went on the computer, I put in my 2 weeks, and there was a lot of transitioning going into the salon. Like I said, that one black female, she had left. She had a large clientele. She left the salon with all her clients. There was the white female that I was telling you about that worked there for 30 years, that was the manager. She also was leaving. Now, she was opening up her salon. Okay. So I put in my 2 weeks, and the week that I was leaving, I get a call from one of my clients, and she tells me that the manager or the receptionist, it was the receptionist called her to ask her if she wanted to go to another stylist to get her hair done because I no longer work there. I said, nah, I said, that's a mistake. I leave at the end of the week. I don't know why she said that, but I'm going to call and I'm going to see what's up with that. So I actually went up to the salon instead of calling, and she told me that I could leave. I could go ahead and take my things and I could leave. I was putting in my I was leaving, and, you know, I could go ahead and leave. And that's how salons are due. By the way, that was a white female or white woman who basically did not allow me to work the rest of the week, which I had clients on the book for the rest of the week. And what she was trying to do, she was trying to take the clients that I had, and she was trying to give them to a new black stylist that she had just hired. Now, this is what's interesting. The white woman that had been working there for 30 years, which was her friend, she was moving to get her own salon, and probably about maybe 2 weeks after I had left. Not only did she leave the salon, but she took 10 of the stylists with her. I later on found out not only did the manager knew she was taking stylists with her, she did not call any of her clients to keep any of the clients. And they gave her a party. So I just kind of felt like, you know, workplace racism. When I look back at, you know, working in salons where the majority of the stylists are white, and the clientele is white, the black stylists, you know, these are some of the ways that we could be treated. It was definitely racism. She took half of the staff, basically. She took half of the staff, and she took thousands and thousands of dollars out of that salon. And that woman allowed her to do it. But with me, she basically was like, we're going to keep all the little clients that you have, and, you know, that's just how we're going to do you. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to let you make this little extra money. You got to go. So that was my workplace racism. I'm just going to give another quick workplace racism that I experienced. So I worked at another salon that was pretty much Caucasians or white people, and this particular I had to go through this training for the salon. So I was the only black girl at the salon training. They wanted us to kind of like mock selling products. And so they basically paired us up into twos. I had got paired up with a white female, a white woman, and when it was our turn to demonstrate how to sell products, she had to demonstrate using me as a model. My hair at the time, I had recently cut off my locks, and so I had a short afro. And it was funny because I could see the visual of, I guess you could say, the instructor. And it's like when I went up there, and she didn't know really what product to choose for me. She was fumbling. She didn't know what to say. It was like these emotions and these twitches on his face because of just reacting from my hair. And it made me feel kind of uncomfortable. What I basically learned from that is that, what do you want to call it, that subconscious behavior that comes out when basically a white person is interacting with you, and their fears of you and, you know, what you radiate or whatever is coming out. And I wasn't, you know, they didn't even know how to sell me some shampoo, you know, or, you know, something like that. And I seen it all in their face. And I found that very interesting. And that's all I'd like to say. Thank you so much for listening to what I have to say.
Yes, ma'am. North Carolina, down in Mr. Scotty Reed, down his neck of the woods. The treachery of white women. I think we have had a good number of incidents today dealing with white women, and she got a party after all of her treachery. Amazing. The other folks is we are winding down, right? So people shouldn't be doing the last minute thing. Anyone that we missed totally who had commentary that they wanted to get in, the caller at last four digits, 6361. Did you have commentary you wanted to share? 6361.
This is Ken Steele.
Oh, right on. Anybody that we missed totally, anybody that has not been able to share, like if you just dialed in and you commented on somebody else's experience or what they had to say, but you did not get to share personally, you should go ahead and share now. Nobody got missed. We didn't miss anybody. Nobody dialed in who has a hand up, who hasn't been able to share, who had something they wanted to say. All right, awesome. Robin, Wisconsin, did you have something else you wanted to get in? Or you might just be listening. You should be with us, Robin, Wisconsin, if you did have... I'm sorry?
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was just going to echo what the female caller said about their energy. I don't, sorry to say, point to something that can't be tangible, but she was talking about reading their faces and, the reactions and feeling uncomfortable based on that. But I've experienced where I don't even have to see their face and can be around them. and the same thing will occur. So just wanted to share that.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Other folks have commentary they wanted to get in? Make sure I didn't miss any of my emails. I think I did have one other email I will make. Was somebody commenting?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say something real quick. This is Ken Steele. I had a thought while I was just going through some of my work and I was taking a look at resumes. And just a quick resume tip. For victims of racism who have names that may suggest that they're from other places, one thing that I've seen some candidates do to improve their odds is they will include their work status right there in the header. So if you have a name that may suggest that you're from a different country and that you may need, that your work authorization may be in question, you may want to just write down on your paper on the headline, U.S. citizen, or authorized to work in the United States, or green card holder. All of these things are great to alleviate the time that it takes for somebody who is going through a lot of resumes to figure out who's going to be qualified for specific roles. Most jobs do not offer sponsorship for what they call H-1B visa holders, and they require that you have authorization in the form of some sort of visa or a green card or U.S. citizenship to work in the United States. So if your name is anything that would suggest that you are not from the United States, I suggest putting that right there at the top of your resume. And that's just a pro tip. Thank you.
Right on. Our young black scholar in the Bay Area, he wrote in for workplace racism. He said, when I went back to school after Christmas break, there was a teacher substituting for the 7th grade theater department. He seemed to be nice to the 7th graders at first until things turned ugly. I heard that he said that since he was a redneck, he could say the word nigger whenever he wanted. He then started making racial slurs toward the students, mainly targeting the black ones, and he just stated many derogatory terms causing the students to shed tears. Afterwards, he was escorted out of the classroom and was asked to leave the premises. I was not there for this. I heard this from someone else, but I found this whole thing significant because the white people are really evolving to where they do not even care what they say or how they say it anymore, disregarding the outcome of other people that they affect. This man literally made children cry. That is all I wanted to share. Again, our young teen scholar in the Bay Area, he calls it on a regular basis. But that, again, you have got to talk to your children. I talked to a black mother in Belgium yesterday. She'll be on the program next week. We talked about workplace. She did a whole podcast about workplace racism. I said I could just play her podcast for the introduction because she gives a whole segment about what happened to her. But she also talked about being a black mother and her child being mistreated at school. And she said her conclusion, succinct, profound. Her conclusion was white people are teaching their children about racism. I am not teaching my child about counter-racism. Her child is 4, by the way. Very important. I'm glad he was able to share that with us. I'm going to check to see if that made the news in California, this teacher's outburst, race soldier. Anybody else have commentary they wanted to get in?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Gus, you had muted me. I had wanted to ask a question. I had got disconnected. It was a caller was speaking about real estate, and he made a statement that I think I understand, but I wanted to know if he could just go into it a little bit more if possible. But he said that land can't be purchased with money, only with blood. And I think that was very, man, it just stood out to me. And thank you.
That does not have anything to do with workplace racism. If he would like to share on Saturday, and it's not anything funny, I'm just saying it because that happened last week. We didn't get to all the callers. We didn't get to all of the things that were written in. And just in general, I do make an effort to stay on topic. And last week we deviated to talk about dogs for a significant amount of time and ran out of time for things that were on topic. Just share on Saturday. You already have that on top. Compensatory call in this Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Caller, if you can have and you should have time to give us something great now to answer Rob in Wisconsin's question. And I will give a reminder at the beginning of the broadcast. Saturday, compensatory call in. We should be able to get a response. I think that's super reasonable. Folks have anything else they wanted to get in? Still had a number of spectators for the broadcast today. I still find that hard to believe that we would have that many non-white listeners who everything is grand for them on the job. They're not having any difficulties, and or you have not had to figure out any counter-racist codification that works. But if you are in such a great position, I hope it lasts permanently. Maybe you can, share some details to figure out how you got in such a grand spot, since it seems that so many black people, non-white people worldwide are having major problems with regards to the job. But at any rate, anything else folks want to make sure they get in before we get ready to wrap? I will assume folks are satisfied. We will look forward to that response on the workplace racism, on the compensatory call-in this Saturday, again, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. I will assume folks are satisfied for the day. I think I got all of the emails. Yep. We'll be here tomorrow. Farewell to the Obamas. The inauguration of Donald J. Trump. I am eagerly looking forward to President Obama leaving his last day today in the White House. Excited to see that come to an end. And looking forward also to reviewing. I do intend on having a jolly old time on the air tomorrow, but also do want to do serious work because I do think there should be reflection. I think if Dr. Welsing was here, I think she would. Let's make our assessment about his time in office and what we think, about whatever our original thoughts were, where things are now, what we've observed over the last 8 years. I want to take some time to hear some of the commentary that was shared on the program over the last 8 years, some of the speeches that Obama gave himself, many of the racist incidents. I mean, we could do the whole 8-hour program just on the racist incidents that have targeted the Obama family over the last 8 years, but to bring in some of that as well. Really looking forward to it. We'll be on, as I said, starting early. We'll be here 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, Friday, tomorrow morning, for the official ceremonies in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We should be on for about 4 or 5 hours. I think we should be on for the bulk of the services. So if you're at work, people talking about that, you can actually listen to the live broadcast tomorrow. Hear what we have to say. There are hilarious sound clips. I think you can learn a lot about racism, white supremacy, just reflecting on what has taken place over the last 8 years. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward. If you're in a position at some point over that period that we'll be on tomorrow, definitely chime in to share your thoughts. Do you think it's been constructive with regards to racism, white supremacy, having President Obama in the White House? What your thoughts were? If your mind has changed, if you thought one way in 2009 and now that we're at the conclusion, you have a different opinion, that would be great too. But man, oh man, I am elated. I'm looking forward to it. This will probably be one of the happiest times that you'll hear Gus T on the air. With that, thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope it was a constructive investment of your time and energy, and we will see you about little over 12 hours. I state consistently, sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. I've seen no evidence that us being intoxicated, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, any other narcotics, I've not seen where that has helped us neutralize race soldiers. White men, white women, white children, none of the above. And in fact, I've seen a lot of evidence that it inhibits our brain computer from being able to make the best decisions on a planet dominated by white terrorism. You do not want to be intoxicated and have that be the day that you get stopped by Daniel Holtzclaw, Darren Wilson, Randall Carrick down in North Carolina, and think that, hey, me being under the influence is going to help me neutralize this situation so that I'm not arrested, tased, choked, shot, and I get to survive this life intact, go home to my loved ones and family. I don't think being intoxicated is going to help that happen. That said, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. Man, I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.